The fluorescent lights in Metropolitan Medical Center's maternity ward hummed with a sterile coldness that matched the December air outside. Sarah Chen sat in the hospital room where she'd given birth just 2 weeks ago, her hands trembling as she held 14-day-old Lily against her chest. The baby was so small, barely 7 pounds, wrapped in a pink blanket that Sarah had washed 3 times to make it soft enough for her daughter's delicate skin. Behind her, Chen stood with his arms crossed, his white coat still on from his shift in cardiology. His name was embroidered on the pocket: Dr. Chen, MD, FACC. He'd spent 5 years earning those letters, and Sarah had supported him through every brutal hour of residency. Every night he came home too exhausted to speak, every missed anniversary because a patient needed him more. Now, he was using those same hands that had held her during labor to serve her with divorce papers. "Sign it now." His voice was cold, clinical, the same tone he used when delivering bad news to patients. No emotion, no warmth, just efficient delivery of devastating information. Sarah looked up at him, her postpartum body still aching, her C-section incision pulling with every breath. She was wearing the same oversized sweatpants she'd worn home from the hospital, stained with breast milk and spit up. Her hair hung limp and unwashed. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours in a row since Lily was born. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" Her voice cracked. "We just had a baby. Our baby. Look at her." He didn't look at Lily, hadn't looked at her properly since she was born. He'd held her once in the delivery room for the obligatory photo, then handed her back to the nurse like she was someone else's problem. "I already told you." He pulled out his phone, showed her the screen. Their joint bank account. Balance, $0. "I transferred everything this morning, the $22,000 we had saved. It's in my personal account now. You'll need to figure out your own finances." Sarah's vision swam. $22,000. Lily's college fund, their emergency savings, the money Sarah's grandmother had given them as a wedding gift 7 years ago. Gone. "You can't do that. That's our money. Was ours. Past tense." He checked his watch, expensive, the Rolex she'd bought him when he finished his cardiology fellowship. "You have 30 minutes to pack your things and leave. I'm having the locks changed at 4 o'clock. "Leave?" Sarah struggled to stand, holding Lily carefully. The room spun. She was still anemic from blood loss during delivery, still taking iron supplements 3 times a day. "Marcus, I just had major surgery 2 weeks ago. Where am I supposed to go?" That's when Dr. Veronica Hayes walked out of the bathroom. Sarah's bathroom. In Sarah's hospital room. Wearing Marcus's MIT medical school t-shirt, the one Sarah had washed and folded 100 times. Veronica was beautiful in that effortless way Sarah had never managed. Tall, slender, with perfect posture and hair that looked professionally styled even at 4 in the afternoon. She was a cardiologist too, Marcus's colleague. They'd met during fellowship. Sarah had suspected something 6 months ago when Marcus started working late every night, when his phone started buzzing at 2 a.m. with urgent patient updates, when he stopped touching her even before the pregnancy made her too uncomfortable for intimacy. But she'd pushed the suspicion away. Marcus was dedicated to his work. Marcus was building his career. Marcus wouldn't. Except he would, and he had. Veronica walked right up to Sarah, her designer heels clicking on the linoleum floor. She looked down at Lily with an expression of mild distaste, like the baby was something unpleasant she'd discovered on her shoe. Then she spat, directly in Sarah's face. The warm saliva hit Sarah's cheek, dripped down toward Lily's blanket. Sarah jerked back, horrified, using her sleeve to wipe her face while trying not to jostle the baby. Marcus laughed. The sound was so shocking, so completely wrong, that Sarah almost dropped Lily, her husband, the man who'd promised to love her in sickness and in health, who'd held her hand during contractions, who'd cut their daughter's umbilical cord, was laughing while another woman spit on her. "Veronica, babe, we talked about this." Marcus's tone was indulgent, amused. "You promised to behave." "I am behaving." Veronica examined her nails. "I could have done so much worse. Should have, really. Look at her, Marcus. This is what you were settling for? This exhausted, overweight mess?" Sarah looked down at herself. She had gained 60 pounds during pregnancy, had only lost about 15 since delivery. Her breasts were engorged and leaking through her shirt. She had dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. Her C-section incision was still bandaged. She looked like a woman who'd just given birth, who was surviving on no sleep and constant stress, who was doing her best with a newborn. But in Veronica's eyes, in Marcus's eyes, she just looked like a failure. "Go cry to your grandmother," Veronica sneered. "Oh, wait. That's right. She's dead. Died last year, didn't she? How convenient. Now you have no one." Sarah's grip tightened on Lily. Her grandmother, Dr. Helen Chen, had died 14 months ago. A massive stroke, sudden and devastating. Sarah had been 5 months pregnant at the time, and the grief had nearly broken her. Helen had raised Sarah after her parents died in a car accident when she was 8. Had put her through college, had been at her wedding, had been so excited about becoming a great-grandmother. She died before seeing Lily, before knowing her legacy would continue. "I need to feed her," Sarah said quietly, looking at Marcus, avoiding Veronica's cruel eyes. "Can you at least give me time to—" 30 minutes. Marcus checked his watch again. "The timer started 5 minutes ago when I walked in. So you have 25 minutes left. I suggest you start packing." Sarah looked around the hospital room. This was where she'd spent the past 2 weeks, since Lily was born. The nurses had been worried about Sarah's recovery, about her blood pressure, about potential complications. They'd kept her here longer than usual. She'd thought it was kindness. Now she wondered if they'd suspected something was wrong. If they'd seen the way Marcus never visited, the way he made excuses about being busy with patients, when really he was with Veronica. "Where am I supposed to go?" Sarah asked again. Her voice was small, defeated. "Marcus, please, I don't have anywhere. There's a women's shelter on 5th Street. Veronica pulled out her phone, showed Sarah the address. "They take people like you, single mothers with nowhere else to go. I'm sure they'll have room." "I'm not a single mother. I'm married." Sarah looked at Marcus desperately. "We're married. We have a daughter together. You can't just—" "Sign the papers." Marcus slapped them down on the hospital bed. "Sign them now, Sarah, or I'll make this so much worse for you." Lily started crying, a thin, high-pitched wail that made Sarah's breasts leak more milk. She needed to nurse, needed to sit down, needed to process what was happening. But there was no time. Marcus had given her 30 minutes. The timer was ticking. Sarah looked at the divorce papers. She could fight this, could refuse to sign, could demand a lawyer, a proper settlement, time to understand what was happening. But fighting meant staying here, in this room, with Marcus and Veronica staring at her like she was garbage they were throwing out. Fighting meant more humiliation, more cruelty, more moments where she felt her soul being crushed. So she signed. Her hand shook so badly the signature was barely legible. But she signed every page where Marcus had put the little sticky arrows. She didn't read the terms, didn't understand what she was agreeing to. She just wanted it to be over. Good girl. Veronica took the papers, handed them to Marcus. See? That wasn't so hard. Now pack your little bag and go. Sarah gathered her things in a daze. The few items of clothing she'd brought to the hospital. Lily's blankets, diapers, a few onesies. Everything fit in one small duffel bag that Marcus's mother had bought them when Lily was born. Marcus's mother, Patricia Chen. Where was she in all this? Did she know? Did she approve? Sarah pulled out her phone to call her, but the screen was black. Dead battery. She went to plug it in, but Marcus stopped her. That's my charger. You'll have to get your own. Marcus, my phone is not my problem anymore. He walked to the door, held it open, waiting for her to leave. Sarah put Lily in the car seat, the one item Marcus had agreed to let her take, and gathered her duffel bag. She walked past Veronica, past Marcus, into the hospital hallway. Nurses looked up from their stations, recognized her. One started to ask if she needed help, but Sarah just shook her head and kept walking. She made it to the elevator before she started crying. The doors closed, and Sarah collapsed against the wall, sobbing while Lily cried in her car seat. 2 weeks old. Her daughter was 2 weeks old, and they were being thrown out. Homeless, penniless, abandoned. The elevator descended slowly, floor by floor, taking her away from the maternity ward where she'd given birth, where she'd thought her life was beginning, where everything had actually ended. When the doors opened on the ground floor, Sarah took a deep breath, wiped her face, picked up Lily's car seat and her duffel bag, and walked out into the December cold. She didn't know that on the administrative floor, in a lawyer's office she'd never visited, there was a letter waiting for her. A letter from her grandmother's estate attorney. A letter that had arrived 3 weeks ago, the same day Lily was born. A letter explaining that Dr. Helen Chen hadn't just been a doctor. She'd been the founder and majority shareholder of Chen Medical Group, a hospital empire worth $3 billion. And Sarah had just become the sole heir. But Sarah didn't know that yet. All she knew was that her husband had thrown her out. Her bank account was empty, her phone was dead, and she had a 2-week-old baby who needed warmth and food and safety. So she started walking. The women's shelter was 3 miles away. It had started to snow. Sarah met Marcus Chen 7 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. She was working as an administrative coordinator at Metropolitan Medical Center, managing schedules and paperwork for the surgical department. He was a second-year resident in internal medicine, charming and ambitious, with a smile that made her forget he'd just pulled a 36-hour shift. He'd approached her at the dessert table, made a joke about hospital coffee, and asked for her number. 3 dates later, he told her he was falling in love. 6 months later, he proposed. A year after that, they were married in a small ceremony at the hospital chapel. Sarah's grandmother Helen had attended, elegant in a dove-gray suit that probably cost more than Sarah's dress. But Helen had always been modest about money, living in a simple apartment in Queens, driving a 15-year-old Honda, clipping coupons despite the fact that, as Sarah would eventually discover, she was worth billions. "He's ambitious," Helen had whispered to Sarah before the ceremony. "Make sure his ambition includes you. Make sure you're not just a stepping stone to something he wants more." Sarah had laughed it off. Marcus loved her. Marcus chose her. Marcus promised forever. She'd been so stupid. The first year of marriage was happy. They lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment, struggled with student loans, ate ramen more often than they'd admit. But they were together. They were building something. The problem started when Marcus began his cardiology fellowship. The hours got longer. The stress got worse. He started comparing himself to other doctors, other fellows who had connections, whose families had money, who didn't have to worry about student loan payments. "Your grandmother," he said once, after a particularly brutal day. "She worked as a doctor, right? Did she leave you anything? Any trust fund or inheritance?" "Just some jewelry," Sarah had answered, which was true. Helen had given her a jade necklace, some pearls, a few pieces that had been in the family for generations. Why? No reason. Just thinking about the future, about how we'll afford a house, kids, retirement. "My salary is good, but not great. Not yet. Not yet." Like he was waiting for something. Like Sarah was supposed to provide something. But she didn't have anything to provide. She was making $45,000 a year as a hospital administrator. It was enough to cover their rent, groceries, utilities. It wasn't enough for the lifestyle Marcus was starting to want. Things got worse when Veronica arrived. She joined the cardiology fellowship in Marcus's third year, fresh from Stanford, with family money and connections to the hospital board. She was everything Sarah wasn't. Successful, polished, from a family of doctors. Marcus started staying late to study with Veronica, started mentioning her name at dinner. "Veronica thinks I should publish more papers. Veronica has a contact at Johns Hopkins. Veronica's father is on the board at Mass General." Veronica, Veronica, Veronica. Sarah tried to be understanding, tried to support his career, tried to be the good wife who didn't complain when he missed their anniversary because he had an important surgery to assist on. Then she got pregnant. It was unplanned. They'd been careful, but careful isn't always enough. When Sarah told Marcus, he'd stared at her like she'd ruined his life. "Are you sure you want to keep it?" he'd asked. "Of course I want to keep it." "Marcus, this is our baby. Don't you want—" "I don't know what I want. I'm trying to build a career. How am I supposed to focus on becoming an attending if I'm worried about daycare and diapers?" But eventually he'd warmed to the idea, or pretended to. He came to some of the ultrasounds, took photos of the sonogram images, posted about becoming a father on social media like it was something he'd planned and wanted. Meanwhile, Sarah struggled through pregnancy alone. Terrible morning sickness in the first trimester, gestational diabetes in the second, preeclampsia in the third. Her obstetrician warned her about complications, about the risk of preterm labor, about needing careful monitoring. Marcus missed most of the appointments. Too busy with work, too busy with research, too busy with Veronica. Sarah's grandmother had died when Sarah was 5 months pregnant. A stroke, sudden and massive. She'd collapsed at home, alone, and by the time anyone found her, it was too late. Sarah had been devastated. Helen was her only family, the only person left who remembered Sarah's parents, who connected her to her past. And now, she was gone. The funeral was small. A handful of Helen's colleagues from her medical practice, some neighbors, Sarah and Marcus. The lawyer mentioned something about the estate, about papers that needed to be signed, about a complicated trust structure. Sarah had nodded, promised to call later, and then spent the next 4 months drowning in grief and the third trimester of a difficult pregnancy. When Lily was born, 2 weeks early, emergency C-section because of the preeclampsia, Sarah had been alone. Marcus was in an important surgery. He arrived 3 hours after delivery, looked at Lily for 30 seconds, and left to check on a patient. The nurses had been kind. They'd helped Sarah learn to breastfeed, showed her how to change diapers, brought her ice chips when she was too dizzy to walk to the water fountain. but they couldn't hide the truth in their eyes. They knew. They saw the way Marcus never came to visit, the way he made excuses, the way Sarah's room stayed empty of flowers or cards or any sign that a father cared about his newborn daughter. Sarah had told herself it was stress, work pressure, the difficulty of being a new parent combined with a demanding career. She'd told herself it would get better once they got home, once they settled into a routine, once Marcus saw how beautiful Lily was. She'd been wrong. 2 weeks after Lily was born, Marcus walked into her hospital room with divorce papers, a mistress, and a deadline. 30 minutes to pack, 30 minutes to lose everything, 30 minutes before her entire life ended. Now Sarah stood outside Metropolitan Medical Center in the December snow, holding her newborn daughter with nowhere to go and no one to call. Behind her, in a lawyer's office on the 5th floor, a letter waited. A letter that would change everything. But first, Sarah had to survive the night. The women's shelter on 5th Street looked worse than Sarah had imagined. Not dirty, not dangerous, but desperately overcrowded. Women and children filled every available space, sleeping on cots pushed too close together, sharing threadbare blankets, eating donated food from paper plates. Sarah stood in the doorway with Lily, feeling like she'd entered a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. She'd never imagined she'd be here. Never imagined she'd be homeless with a newborn. Never imagined Marcus, successful, educated Marcus, would throw them out like garbage. "Can I help you?" A woman in her 50s approached, kind eyes behind thick glasses. Her name tag read, Helen Morrison, Intake Coordinator. Helen. The same name as Sarah's grandmother. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Her voice cracked. "I have a newborn, 2 weeks old. My husband, he kicked us out. He took all our money. I don't have anywhere." Helen's expression shifted from professional to genuinely concerned. "Come with me. Let's get you somewhere warm. Get that baby fed and changed. Then we'll figure out next steps." She led Sarah to a small private room. Not much, just a single bed and a chair, but it had a door that closed. Privacy, safety. Sarah sank onto the bed, her C-section incision screaming in protest, and burst into tears. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I don't normally. I'm not." "You're a mother who just had major surgery and has been thrown out by her husband," Helen said firmly. "You have nothing to apologize for. Let me get you some supplies. When did you last eat?" Sarah couldn't remember. Breakfast? Yesterday? Time had become meaningless since Lily was born, measured only in feeding schedules and diaper changes and stolen minutes of sleep. Helen brought food, diapers, a charger for Sarah's phone. "Plug this in. Call whoever you need to call. Take your time." When Helen left, Sarah plugged in her phone with shaking hands. It took 5 minutes to charge enough to turn on. When it finally powered up, she saw 17 missed calls from Marcus's mother, Patricia, 6 voicemails, and dozens of texts. She ignored them all and called the only other person she could think of, her best friend, Diana Wu. Diana answered on the first ring. "Sarah?" "Oh my God, I've been trying to reach you for days. Where are you? Are you okay?" Sarah's throat closed up. She couldn't speak, could only sob while Lily fussed in her arms. "Sarah, talk to me. What happened?" "Marcus," Sarah managed to force the words out. "He served me with divorce papers, today, at the hospital. He took all our money. He threw us out. Diana, he threw us out and his mistress spit on me and he laughed." "What?" Diana's voice went from concerned to furious in one word. "That bastard did what?" Where are you right now? Tell me where you are. Women's shelter, 5th Street. I don't have anywhere else. I'm coming to get you. Right now. Don't move. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Diana, you don't have to. Shut up. I'm coming. And I'm bringing Marcus's balls in a jar when I find him. Sarah laughed despite everything. Wet, broken, but real. Thank you. While she waited, Sarah scrolled through her missed calls. Patricia's voicemails were increasingly frantic. Sarah, call me back. I heard something from Marcus and I need to talk to you. Sarah, this is urgent. There's something you need to know about your grandmother's estate. Sarah, please call me. The lawyer has been trying to reach you. Something about Helen's will. It's important. It's really, really important. The lawyer. Sarah had forgotten about Helen's estate lawyer. Mr. Davidson, wasn't it? He'd said something at the funeral about paperwork, about contacting him after the baby was born to finalize the estate distribution. Sarah found his number in her contacts, saved from a year ago. She hesitated, then called. It went to voicemail. After hours. Of course. This is Sarah Chen, she said to the recording. Dr. Helen? Chen's granddaughter. I'm calling about the estate. I apologize for not getting back to you sooner. Her voice broke. I'm going through some things. Please call me back at this number. Thank you. She hung up, feeling stupid. The estate was probably just Helen's apartment, maybe a small life insurance policy. Nothing that would help Sarah now, in this moment, with no money and nowhere to live. Diana arrived 25 minutes later, bursting through the shelter doors like an avenging angel. She was still in her work clothes, designer suit, expensive heels, her job as a corporate lawyer paying well, and she looked wildly out of place among the shelter's exhausted residents. Where is he? Diana demanded, pulling Sarah into a fierce hug. Where is that piece of shit so I can destroy him? I don't know. The hospital, probably. With Veronica. Diana pulled back, held Sarah at arm's length, studying her. You look exhausted. When did you last sleep? I don't remember. Come on. You're staying with me. I have a guest room. We'll get you settled, get Lily fed, and then we're going to figure out how to ruin Marcus Chen's life. Diana, I can't impose. You're not imposing. You're my best friend, and you're in crisis. This is what friends do. Now come on before I say something to the shelter staff that gets me banned from volunteering here. They gathered Sarah's meager belongings and drove to Diana's apartment in Brooklyn. It was spacious, modern, exactly what Sarah remembered from the last time she'd visited before Lily was born, before everything fell apart. Guest room is yours for as long as you need, Diana said, showing her the space. A real bed, clean sheets, a bassinet she'd apparently ordered while driving over. Bathroom is through that door. I ordered some supplies, diapers, formula in case you need to supplement, clothes for you because I'm guessing you don't have much. Sarah looked at her friend, this woman who'd dropped everything to rescue her, and started crying again. Stop crying, or you're going to set me off, Diana said, her own eyes wet. We're going to fix this. We're going to get you through this. But first, you need to tell me everything, from the beginning. So Sarah did. The whole story. The divorce papers, the drained bank account, Veronica's spit, Marcus's laughter, the 30-minute eviction, all of it. Diana's expression got harder and harder with each detail. I'm going to kill him, Diana said when Sarah finished. Actually kill him. I know places to hide a body. I have lawyer friends who can make it look like an accident. Diana, I know. Murder is illegal. Unfortunate loophole in our justice system. Diana paced back and forth. Okay. Legal options. First, you need a divorce lawyer. A good one, not some public defender. Someone who will tear Marcus apart and get you everything you're entitled to. I don't have money for a lawyer. I'm your lawyer, pro bono. Friends and family rate, which is free. I don't do family law normally, but for you, I'll learn. And I know people who specialize in this. We'll make him regret ever. Diana's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned. It's your grandmother-in-law, Patricia Chen. Should I answer? I don't know. Maybe. She's been calling. Diana put it on speaker. Patricia Chen? Is Sarah with you? Patricia's voice was frantic. Please tell me she's with you. I've been trying to reach her for 2 days. She's here. Safe. And before you defend your son, I'm not defending him. He's an idiot and a bastard, and I'm ashamed to have raised him. Patricia's voice cracked. But that's not why I'm calling. Sarah needs to call Malcolm Davidson, her grandmother's estate attorney, immediately. It's urgent. Desperately urgent. Sarah leaned toward the phone. Patricia? What's going on? Oh, thank God. Sarah, honey, you need to call Mr. Davidson right now, tonight. He's been trying to reach you for 2 weeks, ever since Lily was born. There's something about your grandmother's estate that you don't know. Something Marcus doesn't know. Something that's going to change everything. What are you talking about? I can't explain. I promised Mr. Davidson I'd just get you to call him, but Sarah... Patricia hesitated. Your grandmother was not who you thought she was, and you're about to inherit something that's going to change your life. Please, call him. His cell phone number is 917-555-0147. He's waiting for your call. The line went dead. Sarah and Diana stared at each other. That was ominous as hell, Diana said. Sarah's hands shook as she dialed the number Patricia had given her. It rang twice before a man answered. Sarah Chen? His voice was professional, educated, with a hint of warmth. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I'm sorry. Things have been complicated. Patricia said you needed to talk to me about my grandmother's estate? Yes. I'm Malcolm Davidson. I was your grandmother's attorney for 35 years. We need to meet in person. Are you available tomorrow morning, say 10 o'clock? Yes, I think so. Can you tell me what this is about? Not over the phone, but I can tell you this much. Your grandmother left you a letter. She wanted you to read it only after you'd given birth. Only after you'd become a mother yourself. She said you'd understand it better then. He paused. She also left you everything, her entire estate. And Sarah, that estate is considerably larger than I think you realize. Sarah's heart pounded. How large? Tomorrow morning, my office. I'll explain everything then. I'll also need you to sign some papers, assume control of various assets, and make some urgent decisions about ongoing operations. Operations? What operations? Tomorrow, Malcolm said firmly. 10 o'clock. The address is 342 Park Avenue, 40th floor. I'll have security expecting you. And Sarah? Congratulations. On your daughter and on becoming one of the wealthiest women in New York. He hung up. Sarah lowered the phone slowly, her mind reeling. Diana was staring at her with wide eyes. Did he just say wealthiest women in New York? I think so. Diana, I don't understand. My grandmother lived in a rent-controlled apartment. She drove a Honda that was older than me. She used coupons. She complained about the cost of heating in winter. How could she? Tomorrow, Diana said firmly. We'll find out tomorrow. But Sarah? She grabbed Sarah's shoulders, looked her in the eyes. Whatever this is, it's going to be big, and we need to be strategic about it. If you really are about to inherit significant money, we can't let Marcus know, not yet. Not until we understand what we're dealing with. Why not? Because he'll come back. He'll claim he made a mistake, that he still loves you, that he wants to work things out. And then he'll fight you for every cent in the divorce settlement. Diana's expression was fierce. We need to be smart. We need to be careful. And we need to absolutely destroy him before he knows what hit him. Sarah looked at Diana, at this friend who'd dropped everything to help her, who was already strategizing her revenge, who believed in her when Sarah couldn't believe in herself. Then she looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully in the bassinet, unaware that her entire world was about to change. Okay, Sarah said quietly. Let's be smart. Let's be careful. And then let's destroy him. Diana grinned. That's my girl. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a very big day. But Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in Diana's guest bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what possible secret her grandmother could have been hiding. What operations needed decisions? What kind of estate required a meeting at a Park Avenue law office? Most of all, she wondered what Marcus would do when he found out, because he would find out eventually. And when he did, Sarah wanted to be ready. Sarah woke at dawn, her body still on the newborn feeding schedule, even though Lily had slept 4 straight hours. A miracle. Diana was already up, coffee brewing, dressed in a sharp navy suit. I'm coming with you, Diana announced. To the lawyer's office. You need a witness, and honestly, I need to see this for myself. They arrived at 342 Park Avenue at 9:45. The building was glass and steel, the kind of place where hedge fund managers and corporate lawyers worked. Sarah felt absurdly out of place in her stretched-out maternity jeans and nursing top, carrying Lily in the infant carrier. The elevator was mirrored. Sarah caught her reflection and winced. Dark circles under her eyes, hair hastily pulled into a ponytail, body still soft and swollen from pregnancy. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd given birth 2 weeks ago and been thrown out by her husband. The 40th floor was all mahogany and hushed elegance. A receptionist looked up, smiled warmly. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Davidson is expecting you, right this way. Malcolm Davidson's office had floor-to-ceiling windows with views stretching to the Hudson River. He stood when they entered, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. He reminded Sarah painfully of her grandmother. Sarah. He came around his desk, shook her hand. Thank you for coming. I'm so sorry for your loss and for the timing of all this. Your grandmother was an extraordinary woman. Thank you. Sarah's voice was small. This is my friend Diana Wu. She's a lawyer. I hope it's okay that... Of course. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? They settled into leather chairs. Lily fussed and Sarah began the awkward process of nursing while trying to maintain some dignity. Malcolm politely averted his eyes, gave them a moment. I'm going to be direct, he said, because I think you've been through enough surprises lately. Your grandmother, Dr. Helen Chen, was the founder and majority shareholder of Chen Medical Group. Are you familiar with that organization? Sarah blinked. The hospital chain? CMG owns like 40 hospitals across... She stopped, stared at him. Wait, my grandmother founded Chen Medical Group? 53 hospitals, actually, as of last count. plus 17 urgent care centers, 6 research facilities, and controlling interest in 3 pharmaceutical companies. Malcolm opened a folder. She started with one small community hospital in Queens in 1972. Bought it for almost nothing because it was failing. Built it into something remarkable. Then bought another, then another. Very quietly, very carefully, over 50 years. Diana leaned forward. What's the current valuation? $3.2 billion. Malcolm said it like he was discussing the weather. The company generates approximately $400 million annually in profit, though most of that is reinvested into new facilities and research. Your grandmother lived on her doctor's salary and let the empire grow. Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't process. $3 billion. Her grandmother, who used coupons at the grocery store, who told Sarah that money wasn't important, that helping people mattered more, who lived in a tiny apartment and never once mentioned owning a hospital empire. I don't understand. Why didn't she tell me? Malcolm pulled out an envelope, cream-colored, expensive paper, Sarah's name in her grandmother's handwriting. She wanted you to read this. She wrote it 2 years ago, updated it 6 months before she died. She was very specific about when you should receive it. Only after you'd given birth. Only after you'd become a mother yourself. Sarah took the letter with trembling hands. The paper felt thick, real. She opened it carefully. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if Malcolm is following my instructions, you've just given birth. You're a mother now. You understand what it means to protect a child, to want to build something that will outlast you. I'm sorry I lied to you. About the apartment, the car, the coupons. I'm sorry I let you think I was just a simple doctor living a simple life. But I had my reasons. When your parents died, when I became responsible for an 8-year-old girl who'd lost everything, I made a decision. I decided to show you that wealth isn't what matters. That kindness, integrity, helping others, those are what make a life meaningful. I didn't want you to grow up spoiled, entitled, dependent on money you didn't earn. I wanted you to learn to stand on your own, to work hard, to understand the value of things. And you did. You became exactly the woman I hoped you'd be. But I also know the world can be cruel. I know that people can be cruel. And I suspected, forgive me for this, that Marcus Chen wasn't the man you thought he was. I saw how he looked at money, at status, at advancement. I saw how he asked about my estate at your wedding. I saw a man who valued what you could give him more than who you were. I hoped I was wrong. I prayed I was wrong. But I prepared for the possibility that I wasn't. So I built something for you. Not just money, though there's plenty of that, but power, protection, the ability to stand against anyone who tries to hurt you. Chen Medical Group is yours now. Every hospital, every research facility, every asset. It's all in your name. Protected by trusts I established 30 years ago. Marcus has no claim to any of it. Even if you were still married, the prenuptial agreement his parents insisted you sign protects your inheritance completely. Ironic, isn't it? They thought they were protecting his modest trust fund. They accidentally protected your billions. Malcolm will explain everything. The board of directors, the operations, the decisions you'll need to make. Don't be afraid. You're smarter than you think, stronger than you know, and you have people who will help you. But here's what I need you to understand. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice. It's about making sure that the people who hurt you face consequences. It's about using what I built to protect not just you, but every woman who's been thrown away like you were. Because you weren't thrown away, Sarah. You were set free. The Chen women don't break. We wait, we watch, and we win. I love you more than words can express. Take care of my great-granddaughter and show them all what you're made of. With all my love, Grandmother Sarah read the letter 3 times. Her vision kept blurring with tears. Diana was crying too, not even trying to hide it. She knew, Sarah whispered. She knew Marcus would do this. Not specifically, Malcolm said gently, but she prepared for the possibility. She updated her will 6 months before she died, right after you told her you were pregnant. She added very specific provisions about timing, about when you'd receive everything, about protecting you legally. He pulled out another document. This is the prenuptial agreement you signed before marrying Marcus. Your grandmother had it reviewed by 3 different law firms. It's ironclad. It specifies that any inheritance, family business, or assets acquired through family trusts remain entirely separate from marital property. Marcus can't touch any of this. Even if he fought in court for years, he'd lose. Diana was reading over Sarah's shoulder, her lawyer brain engaged. This is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They thought they were protecting his family money, but they locked themselves out of hers completely. There's more, Malcolm continued. Your grandmother anticipated that you might be in a vulnerable position when you inherited. So she prepared something she called the Justice Protocol. He pulled out a thick folder. Documentation, strategies, contacts, resources. Everything you'd need to fight back if someone tried to hurt you. Sarah opened the folder. Inside were tabs labeled Divorce Strategy, Evidence Collection, Financial Leverage, Public Relations, Legal Defense. Under Evidence Collection was a report from a private investigator dated 6 months ago. Photos of Marcus and Veronica together. Timestamps showing their affair had been going on for over a year, starting long before Sarah got pregnant. Text messages between Marcus and his mother discussing how to minimize his financial obligations to Sarah. Email exchanges between Marcus and Veronica discussing their future together while Sarah was in her 2nd trimester. Her grandmother had documented everything, had hired an investigator to follow Marcus, to gather proof, to build a case, all while living in her rent-controlled apartment and pretending she had nothing. Why? Sarah's voice broke. Why did she do all this? Because she loved you, Malcolm said simply, and because she'd seen too many women destroyed by men who thought they could take everything. Your grandmother spent 50 years building an empire, and she wanted to make sure no one could ever hurt her granddaughter the way she'd been hurt. Sarah looked up sharply. Hurt? What do you mean? Malcolm hesitated. That's not my story to tell. But I can tell you that your grandmother had her own reasons for understanding betrayal, for knowing what it's like to be underestimated, for wanting to protect you from the same pain. He stood, walked to his desk, pulled out more documents. Now, let's discuss what happens next. You're the majority shareholder and CEO of Chen Medical Group. The board of directors has been managing operations in your grandmother's absence, but they're waiting for you to assume control. We need to schedule a meeting, introduce you properly, begin your transition. Wait, Sarah felt dizzy. CEO? I can't. I don't know anything about running a hospital. I'm an administrative coordinator. I schedule surgeries and manage paperwork. You know more than you think, and you'll have help. Your grandmother handpicked the board members, people she trusted, who share her values. But you're the one with final say on major decisions. Diana was practically vibrating with excitement. Sarah, do you understand what this means? You own 53 hospitals, including... She stopped, looked at Malcolm. Does that include Metropolitan Medical Center? Yes. CMG acquired Metro Medical 3 years ago. It's the flagship facility. Malcolm smiled slightly. Which means Sarah is now Dr. Marcus Chen's employer and Dr. Veronica Hayes' employer. They both work for her. The silence in the room was absolute. Sarah stared at Malcolm, then at Diana, then back at the folder in her hands containing evidence of her husband's year-long affair, his plans to abandon her, his mother's complicity. He threw me out, she said slowly. He threw me and our newborn daughter out of the hospital I own. Yes, Malcolm said. He did. And he has no idea. None whatsoever. Sarah looked down at Lily, still nursing peacefully, unaware that her mother had just become a billionaire. Then she looked at her grandmother's letter, at the words written in familiar handwriting. The Chen women don't break. We wait, we watch, and we win. What do I do? She asked quietly. Diana leaned forward. We be strategic. We don't tell Marcus anything, not yet. We let him think he won. We let him get comfortable with Veronica, let them make plans, let them think they got away with it. Meanwhile, Malcolm continued, you learn the business, meet the board, understand your assets, build your position, and when you're ready, when you've grieved, healed, bonded with your daughter, and prepared yourself, then you make your move. What kind of move? Malcolm's smile was sharp. The kind that ensures Marcus Chen spends the rest of his life regretting every decision he made. The kind that protects every other woman from men like him. The kind your grandmother would have approved of. Sarah thought about Marcus's laugh when Veronica spit on her. About the 30-minute eviction, about being thrown out into the December snow with a 2-week-old baby. About the cruelty of it all. Then she thought about the empire her grandmother had built. The hospitals that saved lives. The research facilities that developed treatments. The power to make real change in the world. I want to meet the board, she said firmly. I want to understand everything. And I want to know every detail about Metropolitan Medical Center's operations. Every single detail. Malcolm nodded. I'll set up a meeting for next week. Give you time to recover, adjust, settle in. In the meantime, you'll need security. Security? You're worth $3 billion, and you're about to become a public figure, at least in medical circles. You need protection, for you and for Lily. It was surreal. Yesterday, she was homeless. Today, she needed bodyguards. There's one more thing, Malcolm said. Your grandmother set up a foundation, the Helen Chen Foundation for Women's Health. It's currently dormant, but it has a $50 million endowment ready to deploy. She wanted you to decide how to use it. What causes to support? What programs to fund? Sarah thought about the women's shelter where she'd spent last night. About the exhausted mothers sharing threadbare blankets. About the women who had nowhere else to go when their partners threw them out. I know exactly what I want to do with that money, she said. Over the next 2 hours, Malcolm walked them through the details. Bank accounts were established in Sarah's name. Credit cards with no limits. Investment portfolios worth hundreds of millions. Real estate holdings, including the apartment building where her grandmother had lived. Helen had owned the entire building, charged herself rent, and used the profit to fund medical research. She was committed to the bit, Diana muttered. I'll give her that. By the time they left Malcolm's office, Sarah's head was spinning. She had a team now. Malcolm coordinating legal matters, a financial advisor named Catherine Zhao who managed the hospital group's investments, a PR specialist named Marcus Reynolds who would handle media once the news broke, and Diana, who'd already quit her job to become Sarah's personal counsel. "You didn't have to do that," Sarah protested as they rode the elevator down. "Are you kidding? You're about to become the most interesting client I've ever had. Plus, destroying your ex-husband is going to be the highlight of my legal career. I'm not missing this for anything." They walked out into the December afternoon. The sky was gray, threatening more snow. But Sarah felt warm for the first time in months. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "I filed the divorce papers today. You'll be served within 48 hours. Let's keep this civil for Lily's sake." Sarah showed Diana, who snorted. "Civil? That's rich coming from the man who literally threw you out 2 days ago." Sarah typed back carefully. "Whatever you think is best. I just want what's fair." She hit send, then smiled. Let him think she was broken. Let him think he'd won. Let him believe she had nothing and no one. Meanwhile, she'd be preparing, learning, building. And when the time was right, she'd show Marcus Chen exactly what he'd thrown away. But not yet. First, she had a daughter to bond with, a business to learn, an empire to claim. The revenge would come later, and it would be perfect. 3 weeks later, Sarah sat in a conference room on the 42nd floor of the Chen Medical Group headquarters. The board of directors faced her across a massive mahogany table. 10 people, carefully chosen by her grandmother over decades. Each one a leader in medicine, business, or finance. Dr. James Morrison, chief of surgery at Metro Medical, had known Helen for 30 years. "Your grandmother was the most brilliant strategist I've ever met," he said. "She didn't just build hospitals, she built a philosophy. Quality care, ethical treatment, protection for vulnerable patients. She never forgot what it was like to struggle." Catherine Zhao, the financial advisor, presented reports on the company's holdings. "We're in excellent shape, profitable, sustainable, growing. Your grandmother refused to cut corners on patient care to boost margins. Said that patients weren't revenue streams. They were human beings. Made us all better business people." Sarah listened, took notes, asked questions. Lily slept in a bassinet beside her chair. The board members had cooed over the baby, brought gifts, treated Sarah not like some inexperienced administrator, but like the rightful heir to something important. "I know I have a lot to learn," Sarah said, when it was her turn to speak. "I'm not going to pretend I can run this company alone. But I want to continue my grandmother's work. I want to make sure we're providing the best care possible while treating our staff fairly and protecting patients who can't protect themselves." "That's exactly what your grandmother would have wanted," Dr. Morrison said. "And we're here to help you succeed." Over the next month, Sarah immersed herself in the business. She toured hospitals, met administrators, reviewed financial reports. She learned about Medicare reimbursements and staffing ratios and quality metrics. She sat in on surgery schedules and budget meetings and strategic planning sessions. And slowly, she began to understand the scope of what her grandmother had built. This wasn't just about money. It was about power. The power to set standards, to enforce ethics, to protect people who had no one else to protect them. She also learned about Metropolitan Medical Center, about its operations, its staff, its finances, about which departments were thriving and which were struggling, about which doctors were excellent and which were merely adequate, about Dr. Marcus Chen and Dr. Veronica Hayes. They're both competent cardiologists, Dr. Morrison reported during one meeting. Marcus more so than Veronica, if I'm being honest. But there have been concerns. What kind of concerns? Professional conduct. Marcus has been difficult lately. Short with nurses, dismissive of residents, several complaints from support staff about his attitude. Nothing actionable yet, but it's being monitored. And Dr. Hayes? Dr. Morrison's expression tightened. She's been involved in 2 separate incidents with patients' family members. Arguments over treatment decisions where she was, let's say, less than diplomatic. The families complained. We documented it. Again, nothing severe enough for disciplinary action, but it's concerning. Sarah made notes, filed the information away. She also hired a private investigator to continue the work her grandmother had started. Within 2 weeks, she had comprehensive documentation of Marcus and Veronica's relationship. Photos of them leaving her apartment together, credit card receipts from expensive restaurants, text messages discussing their future plans, and one particularly damning piece of evidence. An email from Marcus to Veronica dated 3 months before Lily was born, discussing how he'd structure the divorce to minimize his financial obligations while maximizing his freedom. I'll claim the pregnancy was unplanned and that she trapped me, Marcus had written. My lawyer says if we can prove I wanted to leave before the baby was born, I can reduce child support obligations. She won't fight hard. She's too passive. Sarah read that email 5 times, each time feeling her resolve harden. Too passive. He'd counted on her being too passive. Meanwhile, Marcus had no idea his life was being documented. He and Veronica had moved into a luxury apartment together, posted photos on social media, played happy couple for the world to see. Sarah saw the posts. Marcus with Veronica at charity galas, medical conferences, expensive restaurants. Living the life he'd wanted, unburdened by a wife and child he'd discarded. She didn't comment, didn't react, just watched and waited. At night, alone in the penthouse apartment she'd moved into, purchased by CMG for their CEO with panoramic city views and enough space for Lily to grow, Sarah would hold her daughter and whisper promises. He threw us away because he thought we were worthless. He has no idea what we're worth, no idea what's coming. But he will. Soon, baby. Very soon. Lily would coo and grab at Sarah's hair, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. Diana visited often, bringing files and strategy documents and increasingly creative ideas for revenge. We could have him fired, she suggested one evening, while Sarah nursed Lily. You own the hospital. You could just terminate him. Too obvious, too easy to fight. He'd claim retaliation, get lawyers involved, make it messy. We could expose the affair publicly, send the evidence to the medical board, claim professional misconduct. Maybe, but I want something bigger. Something that doesn't just punish him, but protects others. My grandmother didn't build this empire just so I could settle scores. She built it to make change. Diana studied her friend. You've grown since this started. You know that, right? You're not the same woman Marcus threw out 6 weeks ago. Sarah thought about it. 6 weeks ago, she'd been terrified, broken, convinced she was worthless. Now she sat in a penthouse, overseeing a $3 billion empire, planning strategy like a general preparing for war. I had to grow, she said simply. I had a daughter to protect. And I learned something important. What's that? Marcus didn't make me small. I made myself small to fit into his life. I apologized for existing, tried to be less so he could be more. But I was never small. I just forgot how to take up space. And now? Sarah smiled. Now I'm taking up all the space I want. And there's nothing he can do about it. 2 weeks later, Sarah was ready. She'd learned the business, met with her team, prepared her strategy. Most importantly, she'd healed. The C-section incision had finally stopped hurting. She'd lost most of the baby weight through stress and walking the city with Lily in a stroller. She'd started sleeping more than 2 hours at a time. She'd transformed. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. She'd gone from Marcus Chen's discarded wife to Sarah Chen, CEO of Chen Medical Group. Billionaire. Mother. Force to be reckoned with. It was time. She scheduled the board meeting for a Tuesday afternoon. All board members present, plus department heads from Metropolitan Medical Center. The meeting was ostensibly about hospital operations, standard quarterly review. Marcus and Veronica would be there. Required attendance for all department heads. They had no idea who they were about to face. Sarah dressed carefully that morning. A navy suit that fit perfectly, tailored by the same designer who made her grandmother's business clothes. Her hair professionally styled, makeup subtle but flawless. She looked like money, like power, like someone who belonged in that boardroom. Diana met her in the lobby of Chen Medical Group headquarters, grinning. "You look terrifying. I love it." "I feel terrifying." "Good. Channel that. Remember, he thought you were too passive. Show him how wrong he was." They rode the elevator to the 42nd floor. Sarah carried herself differently now, shoulders back, head high. She'd spent the past 6 weeks learning to walk into a room like she owned it. Because she did. She owned the whole damn building. The boardroom was packed. 20 people around the table, another 10 standing along the walls. Sarah recognized faces from her hospital tours. Dr. Morrison caught her eye and smiled. Catherine Zhao gave her a subtle nod. And there, near the back, were Marcus and Veronica. They were talking to each other, heads close together, laughing about something. Marcus looked relaxed, confident. Veronica was stunning as always, in a dress that probably cost more than Sarah used to make in a month. They hadn't noticed her yet. Sarah walked to the head of the table, set down her briefcase, pulled out her notes. The room gradually quieted as people realized someone new was standing at the CEO's position. Marcus looked up. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, shock, and finally something that might have been panic. Sarah met his eyes, smiled. Cool, professional, devastating. "Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. For those who don't know me, I'm Sarah Chen, CEO of Chen Medical Group and majority shareholder. I'm Helen Chen's granddaughter, and as of 6 weeks ago, I've assumed control of all company operations." The room erupted in murmurs. People turning to look at Marcus, whose face had gone white. Veronica gripped his arm, her own expression confused. Dr. Morrison stood. "On behalf of the board, welcome, Ms. Chen. We're honored to have you leading the company your grandmother built." "Thank you, Dr. Morrison. I'm honored to continue her work." Sarah opened her folder. "Today we're reviewing operations at Metropolitan Medical Center. I've spent the past several weeks studying our flagship facility, and I have some concerns I'd like to address." She clicked a button, and the screen behind her lit up with a presentation. Financial data, patient satisfaction scores, staff retention rates. Overall, Metro Medical is performing well. But there are some areas that need attention, specifically our cardiology department. She clicked to the next slide. "We've seen a significant increase in complaints from nurses and support staff about certain doctors' conduct. We've also had multiple family complaints about patient interactions." She clicked again. Photos of Marcus and Veronica appeared on the screen. professional headshots from the hospital website. Dr. Marcus Chen and Dr. Veronica Hayes have both been cited multiple times for unprofessional conduct. Nothing severe enough for immediate action, but a pattern that concerns me. Marcus stood up. His voice came out strangled. "Sarah, what are you—" "Please sit down, Dr. Chen. I'm not finished." The authority in her voice surprised even her. Marcus sat. "However, conduct issues aren't our biggest concern." Sarah clicked to the next slide. "This is—" The screen now showed photographs. Marcus and Veronica entering an apartment together, leaving restaurants, kissing in a parking garage, timestamps on each photo, dating back over a year. Dr. Chen and Dr. Hayes have been engaged in a romantic relationship for approximately 14 months. This relationship began while Dr. Chen was married to me. Sarah's voice stayed calm, professional, betraying none of the emotion churning inside her. It continued throughout my pregnancy with our daughter and after her birth. The room was silent. Everyone staring at the screen, then at Marcus and Veronica, then back at Sarah. "I want to be clear," Sarah continued. "Adult relationships between consenting colleagues are not, by themselves, a violation of hospital policy. However," she clicked again. Now the screen showed emails, text messages, communications between Marcus and Veronica discussing patients, sharing confidential medical information, making treatment decisions together without proper documentation. What is a violation is using personal relationships to circumvent proper medical protocols. Dr. Hayes has been consulting with Dr. Chen on her cases without going through official channels. They've been making joint decisions on patient care without appropriate documentation. This creates liability for the hospital and puts patients at risk. Catherine Zhao stood. "Those are serious allegations." "Yes, which is why I forwarded all evidence to the Medical Ethics Board for review. They'll make the final determination on any disciplinary action." Veronica shot to her feet. "This is harassment. You're going after us because of your personal issues with Marcus." Sarah looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd spit in her face, who'd mocked her, who'd stolen her husband and thought she'd won. "Actually, Dr. Hayes, I'm going after you because you violated hospital policy and potentially endangered patients. Your relationship with Dr. Chen is just context. The policy violations are the issue." "You can't do this." Marcus's voice shook. "You can't. Sarah, we need to talk. Privately, please." "We have nothing to discuss privately, Dr. Chen. Our divorce will be finalized in 4 months. Until then, our only relationship is professional. You work for Chen Medical Group. I own Chen Medical Group. I suggest you remember that." Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. Around the room, people were whispering, phones coming out. Someone definitely recording this. "There's more," Sarah said, clicking to another slide. "This morning, I reviewed our hiring practices in cardiology. Dr. Hayes, when you were hired 3 years ago, you listed several publications on your CV. I had our research department verify them. 2 of those publications don't exist. You fabricated them." Veronica's face went from angry to terrified. I have confirmation from the journals you claimed published your work. They have no record of your submissions. That's resume fraud, Dr. Hayes. It's grounds for immediate termination and possible legal action." Dr. Morrison stood. "Ms. Chen, are you recommending termination?" Sarah paused. This was it. She could fire them both right now, destroy their careers, their reputations, their futures. She had the power and the justification. But her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice. No, Sarah said finally. I'm recommending a comprehensive review of both doctors' practices by an independent ethics panel. If they're cleared, they can continue working here under stricter oversight. If not, appropriate action will be taken. This isn't about punishment. It's about patient safety and hospital integrity. She closed her folder. That concludes my report. Dr. Morrison, do you have any questions? Just one. Dr. Chen, Dr. Hayes. Do either of you have anything you'd like to say? Marcus and Veronica looked at each other, both pale, both clearly panicking. This is retaliation, Marcus finally said. His voice was weak. Sarah is doing this because I divorced her. She's using her position to— I divorced you, Sarah interrupted. You served me with papers and gave me 30 minutes to leave. You took our savings and threw me out of the hospital 2 weeks after I had major surgery. You abandoned your infant daughter. I didn't do anything to you, Marcus. You did it to yourself. He stopped. Seemed to realize he was admitting everything in front of the entire board. I didn't know. About your grandmother. About the company. I didn't know that I was worth something, Sarah finished. I know. You thought I was worthless, passive, easily discarded. That was your mistake. She gathered her papers, snapped her briefcase shut. The ethics review will begin next week. Both of you are suspended with pay pending the results. Dr. Morrison will reassign your patients to other cardiologists. You're dismissed. Marcus tried one more time. Sarah, please. Can we just talk? 5 minutes. I made a mistake. I was wrong about everything. Just give me a chance to— No. Sarah's voice was steel. You made your choice, Marcus. You chose Veronica. You chose your ambition. You chose yourself. Now live with those choices. She walked out of the boardroom with Diana at her side. Behind her, chaos erupted. Voices raised, people arguing, someone sobbing, probably Veronica. In the elevator, Diana was practically bouncing. That was incredible. Did you see his face? Did you see how— I don't want to talk about it. Sarah leaned against the elevator wall, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline crash was hitting hard. Are you okay? I don't know. I thought I'd feel triumphant, vindicated. But I just feel empty. Diana squeezed her hand. That's normal. Revenge doesn't feel like they show it in movies. It just feels like closing a door. Is that what I did? Got revenge? No. You got justice. There's a difference. The elevator opened on the ground floor. Sarah's security detail was waiting, 2 professionals who'd been hired to keep her safe, to make sure no angry ex-husband tried something stupid. They drove to Sarah's penthouse in silence. Inside, the nanny had Lily fed and changed, peaceful in her swing. Sarah paid the nanny, waited for her to leave, then picked up her daughter. It's done, she whispered into Lily's soft hair. He knows now. He knows what he threw away. He knows what we're worth. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. We need to talk. Please. I'm begging you. Then another. I made a terrible mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. Can we please discuss this? Then another. I love you. I never stopped loving you. I was confused and stupid, and I'm so sorry. Sarah blocked his number. Another text from Patricia Chen. I saw what happened at the board meeting. Someone recorded it, and it's already spreading. Sarah, I'm so proud of you. and I'm so sorry for my son. He's a fool." Sarah replied, "Thank you. I'm sorry it had to be public." Patricia's response came immediately. "Don't be sorry. He needed to be held accountable. Helen would be so proud of who you've become." That made Sarah cry. Not sad tears, not angry tears. Just tears of release, of relief, of finally letting go of the weight she'd been carrying. Diana stayed that night. They ordered Thai food, watched terrible reality TV, and didn't talk about Marcus once. Just two friends, a sleeping baby, and the knowledge that the hard part was over. The divorce would be finalized. Marcus would face his ethics review. Veronica's career was probably over, and Sarah would continue building the empire her grandmother had left her, using it to help people, to protect the vulnerable, to make sure no one else had to go through what she had. Over the next 3 months, everything changed and nothing changed. The ethics panel found significant problems with both Marcus and Veronica's conduct. Not enough to revoke their licenses, but enough to require retraining, supervision, and probation. Metropolitan Medical Center quietly let both of them go, citing restructuring needs. Marcus tried to get other positions, but word spread fast in the medical community. No one wanted to hire a doctor who'd been disciplined for ethical violations at a Chen Medical Group hospital. CMG's reputation was sterling. If they found problems with you, there were problems with you. He ended up at a small community hospital in New Jersey, making a fraction of his previous salary. No prestige, no research opportunities, no path to advancement. Veronica moved to California, started over. Last Sarah heard, she was working urgent care, the bottom of the medical hierarchy. The divorce was finalized 3 months after the board meeting. Sarah got primary custody of Lily, generous child support, and her complete freedom. Marcus didn't fight, couldn't fight. He'd signed the original divorce papers thinking he was getting everything and leaving Sarah with nothing. Now he understood he'd done the opposite. Patricia Chen visited regularly, doted on Lily, and slowly rebuilt a relationship with Sarah based on mutual respect rather than the awkward family obligation of before. "I raised him wrong," Patricia said one afternoon while watching Lily play. "I taught him that success mattered more than character. That status was more important than integrity. I'm trying to do better with my grandchildren." Sarah appreciated the honesty. She didn't forgive Patricia for the years of subtle put-downs, the implications that Sarah wasn't good enough for the Chen family. But she understood that people could change, could grow, could learn from their mistakes. And she was too busy to hold grudges anyway. Chen Medical Group thrived under Sarah's leadership. She implemented new policies protecting staff from abuse, created better parental leave programs, funded research into maternal health. She activated her grandmother's foundation, directing $50 million toward programs supporting women in crisis. Domestic violence shelters, job training, childcare subsidies. The media noticed. Sarah gave interviews to medical journals, business magazines, women's publications. She told her story. Not all of it, but enough. Enough for other women to see themselves in her, to understand that being discarded didn't mean being worthless. She became a symbol. The woman who was thrown away and became a billionaire. The mother who was abandoned and built an empire. The wife who was humiliated and transformed it into power. People sent her letters, hundreds of them. Women who'd been divorced, abandoned, told they weren't enough. They all said the same thing. "Thank you for showing us it's possible to survive, to rebuild, to win." Sarah kept every letter. Read them late at night when Lily was sleeping, when the penthouse was quiet, when she had time to remember who she'd been 6 months ago. That woman, broken, terrified, convinced she was worthless, felt like someone else. Someone Sarah used to know but had moved beyond. She'd survived. She'd thrived. She'd taken what her grandmother built and made it even better. And 6 months after being thrown out of a hospital room, Sarah sat in the CEO's office on the 42nd floor, looking out over the city, holding her daughter, and finally felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because of what she'd done to Marcus, not because of revenge or vindication or justice, but because she'd discovered something more important than any of that. She'd discovered herself, her power, her worth, and no one could ever take that away from her. 1 year after that terrible December day, Sarah threw a party. Not for herself, but for the Chen Foundation. A gala to raise additional funds for women's shelters, maternal health programs, domestic violence prevention. The event was at the Metropolitan Museum, elegant and expensive, with 500 guests, including politicians, celebrities, medical professionals, and philanthropists. Sarah stood at the entrance in a midnight blue gown, her hair swept up, looking every inch the billionaire CEO she'd become. Lily was at home with the nanny, sleeping peacefully in the penthouse that was now fully their home. Diana stood beside her, resplendent in red. Ready for your public? I think so. This still feels surreal. You've hosted a dozen events like this. But this one matters. This one is for my grandmother, for her legacy. Then let's make her proud. They walked inside. The museum's great hall had been transformed, with flowers and lights and round tables set for dinner. A silent auction featured art and experiences donated by people who believed in the cause. A string quartet played softly. Sarah worked the room, thanking donors, meeting supporters, telling her story over and over. Each time it got easier. The words felt less raw. Halfway through the evening, Patricia Chen approached with a man Sarah didn't recognize. Distinguished, 60s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Sarah, this is Dr. Richard Morrison, James Morrison's father. He worked with your grandmother 40 years ago, when she was first building the company. Richard took Sarah's hand in both of his. Your grandmother was extraordinary. When I met her, she was just a young doctor with impossible dreams. She talked about building a hospital empire where patients came first, where ethics mattered more than profit. People laughed at her, said she'd fail. She proved them all wrong. I wish I'd known her then, Sarah said. Known what she was, building. She didn't tell you because she wanted you to find your own way. She told me once that children who grow up with money never learn their own strength. They rely on their inheritance instead of building something themselves. She wanted better for you. It was the same message from her grandmother's letter. The same philosophy that had guided everything. Did she know? Sarah asked quietly. About Marcus? About what he would do? Richard smiled sadly. She suspected. She saw certain signs, certain patterns, but she hoped she was wrong. And she prepared in case she was right. That was Helen. Always 3 moves ahead. He squeezed her hand. You've done her proud. You took what she built and made it better. That's all any parent or grandparent can hope for. He walked away, leaving Sarah with tears in her eyes. The evening continued. Dinner was served, speeches were given. Sarah stood at the podium and talked about the foundation, about its goals, about why it mattered. 1 year ago, she said into the microphone, her voice carrying across the great hall, I was thrown out of a hospital 2 weeks after giving birth. My husband served me with divorce papers, took our savings, and gave me 30 minutes to pack and leave. I walked out into December snow with a newborn baby, and nowhere to go. The room was silent. People knew the story, but hearing it directly was different. I ended up at a women's shelter, a place I never imagined I'd need. And I realized something. I was lucky. I had friends. I had resources. Even if I didn't know it yet, I had options. But so many women don't. So many women are trapped in situations they can't escape because they have no money, no support, no place to go. She paused, gathered herself. My grandmother left me a fortune. But more than that, she left me a responsibility. To use what she built to help others, to make sure that women in crisis have the support they need to survive, rebuild, and thrive. So tonight, we're raising money for programs that matter. Domestic violence shelters, job training for single mothers, childcare subsidies, legal aid for women in abusive marriages, health care for women who can't afford it. All the things my grandmother believed in. All the things that make a real difference. She looked out at the crowd. 500 people, all here because they believed in this cause. Because they wanted to help. Because they understood that money without purpose was meaningless. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this work. And thank you for believing that every woman deserves safety, dignity, and a second chance. The applause was deafening. People stood, clapped, some openly crying. Sarah stepped away from the podium, overwhelmed. Diana caught her arm. That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I almost cried up there. Everyone almost cried. That's how you know it was good. The gala raised $4 million, more than Sarah had hoped, more than she'd dared dream. The foundation would be able to fund its programs for years. At midnight, when the last guest had left and the caterers were cleaning up, Sarah stood alone in the great hall. The silence was overwhelming after hours of music and conversation. She pulled out her phone, found the photo she kept of her grandmother. Helen, in her 60s, silver hair, wearing a simple dress, standing outside one of her hospitals, smiling that secret smile. "I miss you," Sarah whispered to the photo. "I wish you were here to see this, to see Lily, to know that everything you planned worked, that I survived, that I'm okay." She didn't believe in ghosts or spirits or signs from beyond, but in that moment, standing in the empty great hall with her grandmother's photo in her hand, Sarah felt something. Peace, approval, love. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for seeing what I couldn't see, for protecting me even after you were gone, for teaching me that the Chen women don't break." She put her phone away, picked up her clutch, and walked out into the New York night. Her driver was waiting. Her security detail was discreet but present. Her daughter was at home, safe and sleeping. And Sarah Chen, once discarded, once broken, once convinced she was worthless, went home to her empire. The next morning, Sarah woke to Lily's babbling from the nursery, 14 months old now, standing in her crib, grinning when she saw her mother. "Mama." Sarah's heart swelled every time. She lifted Lily out, changed her diaper, brought her to the kitchen for breakfast. The morning routine was sacred now. No matter how busy she was, no matter what meetings or obligations she had, mornings belonged to her daughter. Her phone buzzed while Lily ate her oatmeal. A text from Dr. Morrison. Board meeting moved to Thursday. Also, there's something you should see. Attached file. Sarah opened the attachment. It was a news article from a medical journal. Former Metro medical cardiologist facing license suspension. Dr. Marcus Chen, previously employed by Chen Medical Group's flagship facility, Metropolitan Medical Center, is facing possible license suspension following a formal complaint filed by the New York State Board for Professional Medical Conduct. The complaint alleges multiple instances of patient care violations and ethical misconduct. Sarah read the article twice. Felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Not even curiosity about what had finally pushed the board to act. Marcus's life was his own now. His choices, his consequences, his problem. She had more important things to focus on. Like Lily, who was currently trying to feed oatmeal to her stuffed rabbit. Like the expansion project at 3 of their hospitals. Like the new maternal health initiative they were launching next month. Her phone rang. Patricia Chen. "Did you see the article about Marcus?" Patricia's voice was tight. "I did." "It's bad, Sarah. They're really going after him. If he loses his license, that's his consequence to face, Patricia. I didn't file the complaint. I didn't push the board. He did this to himself." Silence on the other end. Then quietly, "I know, he's my son. It's hard to watch." "I understand. But he's also Lily's father, and he's been absent from her life by choice. He hasn't asked to see her in 6 months. Hasn't sent child support in 4. He made his priorities clear." "You're right. You're absolutely right." Patricia sighed. "Can I come see Lily this week? Take her to the park? Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Thank you, Sarah, for not shutting me out. I don't deserve. You're not your son. You've been a good grandmother to Lily. That matters." They hung up. Sarah looked at her daughter, who was now wearing more oatmeal than she'd eaten. "Your father is a mess," she told Lily conversationally. "But you're going to be okay, because you have me and Grandma Patricia and Diana and a trust fund that'll pay for Harvard if you want it." Lily giggled and threw oatmeal. "Or maybe not Harvard. Maybe you'll be an oatmeal chef." Her work phone buzzed. Catherine Zhao with a report on quarterly earnings. Diana with a question about foundation logistics. Dr. Morrison confirming Thursday's board meeting. Sarah's life had become this constant juggling act. CEO duties, mother duties, foundation work, media appearances, strategic planning. It was exhausting and exhilarating and completely different from the life she'd imagined at 23 when she married Marcus Chen. That life, the one where she'd been an administrator's wife, supporting his career, living in his shadow, felt like fiction, like something she'd read about happening to someone else. This life, complicated, demanding, powerful, was real. And she'd never go back. 2 years after the divorce, Sarah stood in front of a Senate committee. They were investigating healthcare costs, hospital operations, pharmaceutical pricing. Sarah had been invited to testify as CEO of one of the country's largest hospital chains. She wore a charcoal suit. Her hair was professionally styled. She'd practiced her testimony with Diana for weeks. But standing in front of senators, cameras, journalists was still terrifying. "Ms. Chen," Senator Williams began, "your company operates 53 hospitals across 12 states. Your average patient satisfaction rating is significantly higher than industry standard, while your costs remain competitive. How do you achieve that?" Sarah leaned toward the microphone. "We prioritize patients over profit. I know that sounds like a platitude, but it's literally how we operate. My grandmother founded Chen Medical Group on the principle that healthcare is a right, not a commodity. We invest in staff, in equipment, in research. We take lower profit margins than our competitors because we believe that's the ethical choice. But you're still profitable? Yes. Last year we earned $400 million in profit, but that's out of $12 billion in revenue, a 3.3% margin. Most hospital chains aim for 10% or higher. We could increase our margins by cutting staff, delaying equipment upgrades, reducing patient care time. We choose not to. Senator Williams leaned forward. Why not? Shareholders typically expect maximum returns. I'm the majority shareholder, and I expect my company to provide excellent care. The return I care about is patients who survive, who thrive, who get the treatment they need regardless of their ability to pay. Another senator jumped in. Ms. Chen, you've been public about your own experience with the healthcare system. Would you say that personal experience influences your business philosophy? Sarah paused. This was delicate territory, but it was also why she was here. 2 years ago, I was a patient at Metropolitan Medical Center, which my company owns. I'd just given birth via emergency C-section. I was vulnerable, exhausted, recovering from major surgery. And my husband, who was a doctor at that hospital, decided that was the perfect time to serve me with divorce papers and force me out. The room was silent. She had their attention now. I was lucky. I had resources I didn't know about, friends who helped, options that most women don't have. But that experience showed me how broken the system is, how vulnerable patients are, how easy it is for people in power, doctors, administrators, family members, to abuse that power. So yes, my personal experience influences everything I do. Every policy we implement, every standard we set, every dollar we spend, because I know what it's like to be helpless in a hospital. And I'm determined that no one else will feel that helpless at a Chen Medical Group facility. The testimony continued for 2 more hours. Questions about costs, staffing, pharmaceutical contracts, Medicare reimbursement. Sarah answered everything directly, honestly, with data to back up every claim. When it was over, several senators came to shake her hand personally. Thank her for her candor. Tell her the healthcare system needed more leaders like her. Outside, Diana was waiting with an enormous grin. You were a rock star in there, an absolute rock star. I was terrified. Didn't show. You looked like you owned the place. I kind of did. Senate committee rooms are technically public buildings, which means we all own them. Diana laughed. Smartass. Come on, let's get you home to Lily. She's with the nanny, but she's been asking for you. They drove back to New York, Sarah's security detail following discreetly. In the car, Sarah closed her eyes, let the tension drain away. Do you ever regret it? Diana asked quietly. Speaking publicly about what Marcus did? Putting yourself out there like that? Sarah thought about it. No, it's not about him anymore. It's not about revenge or justice or vindication. It's about making sure other women know they're not alone. That what happened to them wasn't their fault, that they can survive and rebuild and become something incredible. You've become a symbol. I've become a warning, Sarah corrected. To men like Marcus, to anyone who thinks they can throw someone away and face no consequences. I'm the proof that the people you discard might be the ones who end up more powerful than you ever dreamed. Diana smiled. Your grandmother would be so proud. I hope so. I really hope so. That night, after Lily was asleep, Sarah sat in her home office reviewing contracts. Her penthouse had a room specifically for this, her private workspace with views of the city, walls lined with medical journals and business books, a desk that had belonged to her grandmother. She kept Helen's photo on that desk, looked at it every day, sometimes talked to it when decisions were particularly difficult. I have to make a choice, she said to the photo now. Atlanta Medical Center wants to sell. They're struggling financially, considering closure. We could buy them, bring them into the CMG network, save jobs and patient access. But it would stretch our resources. We'd have to delay other projects. Helen's photo didn't answer. But Sarah could imagine what she'd say. What serves the patients? What protects the vulnerable? That's always the right choice. Sarah made notes, drafted a proposal for the board. They'd discuss it Thursday, probably approve it. And Chen Medical Group would add a 54th hospital to its portfolio. The work was never done. There were always more hospitals struggling, more communities without adequate care, more patients falling through the cracks. But Sarah was building something. Not just a company, but a legacy. Her grandmother's legacy, yes, but also her own. She was Sarah Chen, mother, CEO, billionaire, survivor, and she was just getting started. 5 years after Marcus threw her out of that hospital room, Sarah stood in the lobby of the brand new Helen Chen Memorial Hospital. The facility had been built from the ground up in an underserved Brooklyn neighborhood, designed to provide top-tier care to patients regardless of their ability to pay. It was the crown jewel of Chen Medical Group's expansion. State-of-the-art equipment, the best doctors, a focus on maternal and infant health, domestic violence support, mental health services. Everything Helen Chen had believed in, made real. The dedication ceremony was today. Politicians, celebrities, medical professionals, and community leaders filled the lobby. Cameras everywhere. This was a big moment for the company, for the community, for Sarah personally. Lily, now 5 years old, stood beside Sarah in a little blue dress, holding her mother's hand tightly. She'd asked to come, wanted to see the hospital named after her great-grandmother. "Is this where people get better?" Lily asked, looking around with wide eyes. "Yes, baby. This is where we help people. Like when I had the flu and the doctor made me feel better? Exactly like that." Diana appeared with Sarah's speech notes. "You ready? They want to start in 5 minutes." Sarah took a deep breath. "Ready?" They walked to the podium set up in the lobby. 500 people watched as Sarah approached the microphone. She'd given hundreds of speeches by now, but this one felt different. More important. "5 years ago," she began, "I was thrown out of a hospital with nowhere to go and no one to help me. I was terrified, broken, convinced I had nothing to offer the world. I couldn't have imagined standing here today." She paused, looked around at the beautiful facility, at all the people who'd made it possible. "But my grandmother imagined it. She spent 50 years building something incredible, and she did it quietly, humbly, never seeking recognition or glory. She just wanted to help people, to provide excellent care to anyone who needed it, to make the world a little bit better than she found it. This hospital is named after her because it embodies everything she believed in. Quality care for everyone, dignity for every patient, protection for the most vulnerable. She would have loved seeing this place, knowing that her work, her vision, her values will continue serving this community for generations." Sarah felt her voice crack slightly. "I miss her every day. I wish she could see this. Wish she could meet her great-granddaughter. Wish she could know that everything she built, everything she planned, succeeded beyond what even she imagined." She wiped her eyes, laughed at herself. "Sorry. I promised myself I wouldn't cry during this speech. But I want to say one more thing. To anyone watching who feels like I felt 5 years ago. Anyone who's been told they're not enough. Who's been thrown away. Who's been convinced they have nothing to offer. You're wrong. Whoever told you that was wrong. You have strength you don't even know about yet. You have value that no one can take away. And you can survive anything. You can rebuild. You can become something incredible. I know because I did it. And if I could do it, anyone can. The applause was overwhelming. People standing, clapping, some crying. Sarah stepped back from the podium, feeling lighter somehow. Lily tugged on her hand. Mama, you did good. Thank you, baby. Can we see the hospital now? Absolutely. Let me show you around. They toured the facility together, the maternity ward with its private rooms and comfortable spaces for new mothers, the domestic violence resource center that provided counseling, legal help, and safety planning, the pediatric wing designed to be welcoming and non-threatening for children. Everywhere they went, staff members smiled and greeted them. These people who'd chosen to work here, who believed in the mission, who wanted to be part of something meaningful. In the maternal health wing, Sarah stopped at a plaque on the wall. In memory of Dr. Chen, who believed that every mother deserves excellent care, support, and dignity. And in honor of all the mothers who've survived impossible circumstances to build beautiful lives for their children. Sarah read it twice, her throat tight. Then she knelt down so she was eye level with Lily. Your great-grandmother would have loved you so much, she told her daughter. She would have been so proud of who you are and who you're going to become. I wish I could have met her. Me too, baby. But you know what? She's part of you. Her strength, her kindness, her determination, all of that lives in you. Lily considered this seriously. Am I going to run a hospital when I grow up? Sarah laughed. Maybe. Or maybe you'll be something completely different. A teacher or a scientist or an artist. Whatever you want to be, you can be. That's what great-grandma Helen believed. That's what I believe. What about a princess? Well, we're not technically royalty, but you're definitely my princess. Lily giggled and hugged her mother fiercely. Later, after the ceremony ended and most of the guests had left, Patricia Chen found Sarah in the lobby. She was older now, more fragile, but she came to every company event, supported every initiative, and doted on Lily with the dedication of someone making up for lost time. This is beautiful, Sarah. Helen would be overwhelmed. Thank you. It means a lot that you're here. I wouldn't miss it. Patricia hesitated. I heard from Marcus last week. Sarah tensed involuntarily. She hadn't heard his name in months, hadn't thought about him in even longer. He's working at a clinic in Ohio. Small place, nothing prestigious. He asked about Lily, wanted to know if he could see her. What did you tell him? That he'd have to ask you. That I don't make those decisions. Patricia looked at her granddaughter, playing with Diana's daughter in a corner of the lobby. Do you think you'll let him? Sarah thought about it. Marcus was a stranger to Lily. She didn't remember him, didn't ask about him. In her mind, family was Mama, Grandma Patricia, Auntie Diana, and the various staff and board members who'd become like extended family. If he wants a relationship with her, he can go through the proper channels. Set up supervised visits, prove he's committed, show up consistently. But I'm not going to force anything. Lily is happy, healthy, thriving. I won't disrupt that for someone who threw us away. Patricia nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. I'll tell him. How is he? Sarah asked, surprising herself. She didn't care, not really. But some small part of her was curious. Struggling. His medical license is suspended in New York. He can practice in Ohio, but with restrictions. He's in therapy trying to understand what went wrong. Says he ruined the best thing that ever happened to him. Patricia's expression was sad. He's right about that. I hope he gets the help he needs, Sarah said, and meant it. Not because she forgave him or wanted him back, but because Lily deserved a father who dealt with his issues, who could show up and be present if he was going to show up at all. Thank you for not hating him. I know you have every right. I don't have the energy to hate him, Patricia. I'm too busy building things, loving my daughter, running a company. Marcus is just someone I used to know. Someone who taught me important lessons about my own strength. I'm grateful for that, I guess. But that's all. Patricia hugged her, tears in her eyes. You're a remarkable woman, Sarah Chen. More remarkable than my son ever deserved. That night, back in her penthouse, with Lily asleep in her room, Sarah stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at New York. 5 years ago, she'd been terrified, broken, homeless. Now, she stood in a multi-million-dollar apartment, CEO of a $3 billion company, with a daughter who was happy and healthy and loved beyond measure. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been dark days, moments of doubt, times when she'd wanted to give up. But she'd kept going, one day at a time, one decision at a time, one step forward at a time. Her grandmother's letter was framed on her desk now. She read it sometimes when she needed strength or guidance. The Chen women don't break. We wait, we watch, and we win. They had won. Not because Marcus had failed, but because Sarah had succeeded. She'd built something meaningful, something that would outlast her, something that would help people for generations. That was victory. That was justice. That was everything her grandmother had hoped for. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Diana. You were incredible today. Helen would burst with pride. Hell, I'm bursting with pride and I'm just your friend. Sarah smiled, typed back, couldn't have done any of this without you. Thank you for everything. Diana, that's what sisters do. Also, Lily wants to know if she can have a sleepover this weekend. My kids are begging. Sarah, tell them yes. But fair warning, Lily's current obsession is making everyone play hospital. She's very bossy about who's the doctor. Diana, she gets that from her mother. Sarah laughed, set down her phone, and went to check on Lily one more time before bed. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully, one arm wrapped around her stuffed rabbit, the other clutching a toy stethoscope. Sarah adjusted the blanket, kissed Lily's forehead, and whispered, You're going to do amazing things, baby girl. I can already tell. You're a Chen woman, and Chen women don't break. She turned off the light, closed the door softly, and went to her own room. Tomorrow there would be more meetings, more decisions, more challenges. The work was never done. But tonight, Sarah Chen, once discarded, once broken, once convinced she was worthless, went to sleep in her empire. And she slept peacefully. The end. Epilogue. 7 years later. The invitation was cream-colored, expensive. Sarah turned it over in her hands, not sure whether to laugh or throw it away. Dr. Marcus Chen requests the honor of your presence at his wedding to Dr. Jennifer Walsh. October 15th, Boston. 7 years since he'd thrown her out of a hospital. 7 years since Veronica. Since the 30-minute eviction. Since everything fell apart and came back together in ways Marcus could never have imagined. Lily, now 12 years old, peered over her mother's shoulder. Is that from my father? Yes. He's getting married again. Are you going to go? Sarah thought about it. She'd seen Marcus twice in the past 7 years. Both times at Lily's request, supervised visits where he'd been awkward and apologetic and trying too hard. Lily was polite to him, but distant. He was biologically her father, but he wasn't her dad. That role belonged to no one, and Lily seemed content with that. "I don't think so," Sarah said finally. "I have a board meeting that day. You could reschedule." "I could, but I don't want to. Marcus is part of my past. I don't need to be part of his present." Lily nodded, understanding. At 12, she knew the basics of what had happened. Sarah had never hidden it from her, never lied or made excuses, just told her the truth in age-appropriate ways. Sometimes people make bad choices. Your father made bad choices, but you're not responsible for his choices. You're only responsible for yours. "Does he know?" Lily asked. "About everything. About the hospitals and the money and all of it. Yes, everyone knows now. It's not a secret." "Do you think he regrets it?" "Probably. But regret doesn't undo what happened. It just means you wish you'd made different choices." Lily thought about this. "I'm glad he made bad choices." Sarah looked at her daughter, startled. "What?" "Because if he hadn't left us, you wouldn't have become who you are now. You wouldn't have built all the hospitals. You wouldn't have helped all those people. So even though it was bad for us then, it was good for lots of other people later." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Her 12-year-old daughter had just articulated something Sarah herself had taken years to understand. "That's very wise, Lily." "I know. I get it from my great-grandmother." Lily grinned, then hugged her mother fiercely. "And from you. You're pretty wise, too." Sarah held her daughter, this incredible human she'd created, and felt grateful for everything. The pain, the struggle, the journey. Because Lily was right. If Marcus hadn't thrown them away, Sarah would never have discovered her own strength, would never have claimed her inheritance, would never have built an empire dedicated to helping others. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. "So, what are you going to do about the invitation?" Lily asked, pulling back. Sarah looked at the cream-colored card one more time, then walked to her study and put it in a drawer with other things from her past. Divorce papers, her grandmother's original letter, articles about the company, reminders of where she'd been and how far she'd come. "Nothing," she said. "I'm going to do nothing. Because Marcus's wedding isn't about me. It's about him. And I have much more important things to focus on." "Like the expansion project in Philadelphia?" "Exactly like that. Did you want to come to the site visit next week? See how they're building the new pediatric wing?" Lily's face lit up. She loved touring the hospitals, seeing the construction, understanding how buildings came together. She was already talking about becoming an architect or an engineer, designing hospitals that were both functional and beautiful. "Can I bring my sketchbook?" "Of course. You can sketch ideas for what you'd do differently." They spent the evening like they spent most evenings. Dinner together, homework at the kitchen table, a movie before bed. Simple, normal, perfect. And Sarah never thought about Marcus Chen again. Not on his wedding day, not on his anniversary, not ever. Because he was irrelevant. A footnote in her story. A catalyst for transformation, but not the transformation itself. The transformation was all Sarah. Her strength, her choices, her empire. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Not needing revenge. Not caring enough to want it. Just living well. Building something meaningful. Being happy. The Chen women didn't break, they thrived. And Sarah Chen thrived more than anyone could have imagined.